my mind stayed on Spirit. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Yes, indeed. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Woo, we're going to warm it up in here this morning, family, for sure. Well, good morning, AHIAH. How is everyone this morning? Grateful, with no complaints. And where does that leave us? Right there, between fabulous and fantastic. And what a great place to be, yes? So we are generating some heat this morning. We've got the AHIAH Sunday Go to Meeting Band in the house, Brother Brian back on the percussions, Jack on the bass, and Chris Glick over there tickling the keyboards. Let's give them our love. And let's see, for the congregationals today, Brother Will Right Now Walls with Doreen Younglove in the cut. Throwing down. And today we have as our musical inspiration, Sharon Scott. Sharon, blessings and light to you. And just an interesting note of trivia, years ago, someone gave me a tape to Agape. I had never heard of Metaphysics or New Thought. They gave me a tape from Agape, and I think they were in a hotel or something at that time, and there was this angelic voice singing Candle in the Dark, and it was Sharon many years ago. So her voice was a part of leading me into New Thought. Thank you, Sharon. So on the pulpit with me, yes, is the beloved practitioner, the amazing spiritual leader, Miss Adelaide Massengale. She leads the youth church, director of the youth church. She slices, she dices, she does it all. She's amazing. I'm going to tell you a little secret about something she did in a little bit. But please give her your love. She will be leading us in the heart openers, evocation, and the reading, yes. So please join me as we, indeed. And I will be your guest speaker today. Reverend Charles is taking a much-needed vacation, getting some rest out in the sun, and so we send him our love and our light. But in the meantime, when the cat's away, the mice will play. So we're going to have some fun. So why don't we open with a congregational, Pour Yourself in Me, found on the lime green, electric green.
Snow is falling, the wind chill is cold, a fire is burning inside my soul. Hearts are warming as the snowflakes fall. So happy to be together once more. One night this Christmas, one night this Christmas. Sky is gray, trees full of white. There's a promise in the air tonight. Hold fast, hold strong. Winter is here, but not for too long. One night take your love and give it away and make it better for someone else today. Laughter reigns as the seasons flow. Hug your dear one, 'cause we never know. It's one night this Christmas. Oh, it's one night this Christmas. Oh, it's one night this Christmas. Oh, it's one night this Christmas.
Sharon, thank you so much. Your music just moves me to the depths of my soul. Beautiful line. Hug your loved ones. Hug your loved ones. Remember that. The essence of love, yes? And I appreciate the hugs that I'm receiving from you right now. Once upon a time, there was a man who fell asleep. Or maybe he awakened, depending on your view of this parable, to find himself in a rowboat with God. God was at the helm doing the steering, and he was in the rear of the boat doing the footwork. Sometimes the ride was through calm waters. It was like It's a Small World at Disneyland. It's a small world after all. Sometimes it was like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, whitewater raft ride, and he was holding on for dear life. But because of the expert and mysterious ability of God to steer, he was always safe. Every now and once again, this man would become restless and irritable and discontent, and he'd decide that he should be at the helm of this boat. Come on, God, why don't you let me drive for a while? You're always doing the driving, got me back here doing the work. I want to drive. And God, in his most benevolent and loving way, would look at him and say, you want to drive? Come on, come, my child, you can drive. And he'd find himself instantly at the helm of the boat, steering, steering, steering. And gradually, he would become aware that the boat was not moving because God never rows. We do the rowing. And this story reminds me of my uncle got a 57 Dodge back in the day. It had these big tail fins like shark fins. It was yellow and white. It had a steering wheel that was about this big, and it had a knob on it with a little pearl handle that he used to turn the wheel. And I used to beg him, Unc, come on, let me drive, Unc. Please let me drive. Please, Unc. And Unc would look at me in that loving way. He was like my father. He helped to raise me. And he said, come on, boy, come on, you could drive. And there I would be standing up in the driver's seat, holding that steering wheel, driving, California, here I come. But the car was going nowhere because my feet couldn't even reach the gas. And that story about that man in that boat, you might relate to that, because that steering that our friend was doing was not really steering at all, but it was the experience of the furtive and futile efforts of a child whose feet could not reach the gas pedal, driving nowhere, but going really, really fast. Eventually, he would remember to surrender to the mystery of God's wonderful steering ability, and he would finally let go and let God do what God does. So this morning, we dialogue on parables. What is your parable? You know, parables deal with reality on many different levels. They're wonderful stories. There's the literal level, and then there's the figurative level. The word parable is from the Greek word parabole, meaning similitude or comparison. So it gives us a story that gives us a frame of reference to make a comparison about our own life. You might consider it to be two stories side by side, or maybe a story within a story, one literal and the other figurative. And within these stories, there's several different flavors of knowledge. There's the exoteric, which is the outer teaching. It's the basic facts of the matter, what you might call the surface teaching. This is what gets our interest, because the minute that we hear a story, we perk up. There's a hook inside of us for stories. And then it begins to open us to the deeper levels of meaning. And then there's the esoteric, the internal, the secretive, the knowledge that's not easily ascertained. These are some of the secrets that require extensive training, knowledge, and experience to even be able to comprehend, much less make use of. So parables and metaphysical teachings are one way of transmitting esoteric secrets. My grandmother used to teach in parables and esoteric teachings. She would use metaphor, which is a figure of speech in which a word that ordinarily means one thing would mean another. She taught me much like Yeshua, the man that we call Jesus the Christ, taught. And she would say things to me over and over and over. And I used to think, why she keeps saying the same thing over and over? She said this before. I remember we used to ride the train. My grandmother was my uncle's mother. We called her Mother. And she was from Memphis, in Tennessee. And so we used to go south every year. My uncle was a Pullman porter. And so we would go down to Memphis every year, and we'd be riding the train, looking out the window together. And my grandmama, you know, some of you know, she used to give a little snuff down the hood, make her talk kind of funny, you know. And we'd be going down the road and seeing those farms, and she'd say, boy, look at that. You see them cows? You see them? Them cows, they with other cows. And look at them hogs. Them hogs, they in the slop pen. They're not in the chicken coop. Them chickens, they with other chickens. Boy, you remember that. Eagles and buzzards don't fly together. Then she said, you hear me? You hear me? I was, yes, ma'am, I hear you. She wanted to make sure that I heard the story. And what I heard was the surface level, the basic teaching. Okay, so chickens go in the chicken coop, hogs go in the slop pen, right? And the cows go out there to the pasture. That's what I got. But today, a half a century later, I understand the esoteric teaching, the deeper meaning in that. You see, I hang with eagles today. I hang with people who get up out of their bed on a Sunday morning and they come to hear a message that they incorporate into their life and they take back and carry the message to others. People who have dedicated their life to the light rather than the darkness. Grandma did her job well. Parables contain many different levels of meaning. And as we begin to evolve, we begin to discern the higher levels, the meaning beyond the exoteric. We begin to discern the very subtle esoteric, the secret teaching. Reminds me of this young man, well, he was a young 85, who went to the doctor complaining of a terrible pain in his leg. Doctor, you got to help me. This leg is just killing me. Doctor looked at him and said, oh, it's just old age, that's all. He said, what? He said, man, you don't know what you're talking about. What kind of doctor are you? And the doctor said, well, wait a minute. Why you don't trust me? I mean, you know, I'm a professional. He said, no, you don't know what you're talking about. He said, because this other leg, it's just as old as this one, and it's fine. He was not accepting that story. So this parable about the man in the boat calls us forward to ask ourselves, what is my parable? Where am I in this rowboat with this power, this presence? Am I stuck at what I believe to be the helm of my own life, driving and steering, making my own choices, running my own show? Or have I remembered to surrender to the I am consciousness, the Christ presence inside, the Atman, the Buddha, the enlightened one, the one that knows and knows that it knows, the God of our own understanding? The scriptural reference to this question is from Joshua 24:15. Choose ye this day whom ye shall serve. Joshua represents the awakening to the I am consciousness. It's the inner aspect who leads us to the promised land. The stories that we read in the Hebrew scripture in the Old Testament are psychological dramas. They're metaphysical stories. They're much like the same stories that my grandmama used to tell me about things that happened, but they had a deeper meaning to them. You see, the seat of controlling consciousness, when I'm doing the work necessary to move my life forward on the growth line, that is the Christ consciousness. It's God at the helm of my life. The Jacob consciousness and the consciousness that wants to steer is the other brother, which is the Esau consciousness, or that hairy brother of the sense realm. A few months back, I shared with you the story about Jacob and Esau, who were the children of Isaac and Rebekah. And if you want to read this story, it's in Genesis 25:22. And it's a story that once you know the key to it, when you read it again, it will not be the same story. In Genesis 25:22, this story begins, and the children struggled together within her womb. And the Lord said to her, 2 peoples are in your womb, and 2 nations shall be separated from your body. And the one nation shall be stronger than the other nation, and the elder shall serve the younger. The elder brother is described in the very next verse. And the first one came out red and covered with ringlets of hair, and they called his name Esau. In the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, Charles Fillmore expounds on the metaphysical meaning of this story and the meaning of Esau when he writes, Esau represents the body or the physical vigor. In the immature consciousness, the natural man is moved by his desire. Appetite and passion is moved by desire. Esau sold his birthright for a mess of pottage. This was something temporary. He gave up a long-term value for short-term gain. The threat of Esau against Jacob's life represents that inward rebellion that we often feel when we change our modes of thought. And what he's saying to us is that the minute we decide that we want to shift into the Christ consciousness, that we want to do something better with our lives, there's going to be an immediate and opposite reaction from the Esau consciousness, that part of us that's stuck on stupid, it's stuck on desires, it's stuck on the earthly things. Genesis describes the birth of Jacob in 25:26, and after him his brother came forth, and his hand held Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. The younger brother Jacob is also described in the Metaphysical Dictionary. That's right. Jacob represents the supplanter, the one who must displace and substitute for Esau. He represents the mentality of mankind or understanding. Jacob also represents the I am identity, through which the faculties of the mind receive their original inspiration. Jacob represents the Christ consciousness, that which desires nothing, because it is the I am. It is everything and lacks nothing. So when we read the allegory of Jacob and Esau, we must remember that it's not a historical accounting, but it is to be read in the light of spiritual understanding, as part of the unfoldment of the individual soul. And it is thusly that we can discern the description of the subtle working of the soul in spiritual evolution. For when the soul begins to evolve, that part of us goes kicking and screaming. It does not want to cooperate. Fillmore writes in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary that the soul is progressive. We must go forward. The soul must meet and overcome its limitations. He's saying to us that no soul will be lost. We will all eventually reach the goal. It is already ordained. The question is, will you go now or will you wait until later? Will you wait until the moment of your transition into the next phase of life when you will finally know that there was nothing to resist? When will you realize, as Neil Donald Walsh wrote in his book that I love, it's called The Little Soul in the Sun, and one of the last lines in the book, God tells the little soul, he says, remember, I have sent you nothing but angels. Joshua 24:15. Choose ye this day whom ye shall serve. So today we're talking about the inner struggle of the mind. The mind. Because in the mind is where the dis-ease occurs. The disharmony, the discord, the dysfunction, it all occurs in our mind. It's a struggle between our desires for the things of the sense realm and the desire for the unfoldment of the I am consciousness. We're talking about being in that rowboat with the I am consciousness and catching the heel of our inner Esau, who is hungry, ready to sell his birthright for pottage. This pottage idea is something that's immediately attractive, but of little real value. Something taken foolishly and carelessly in exchange for something more distant, and perhaps less tangible, but immensely more valuable. Sale of birthright connotes short-sightedness and misplaced priorities. Like a relationship that we get involved and we know that it's not going to last, but we figure, well, it'll last for right now. So the question is, how do we moderate the struggle within ourselves, between Esau and Jacob? For sometimes we are unaware of our freedom to choose. It may seem that we're at the mercy of Esau, stuck on being stupid, slave to our desires. It seems that we have that dis-ease of more, never wanting what we have, but obsessing on having what we want. And with each new acquisition, we want more, fearing that we will lose what we have and not get what we want. You know, once upon a time, there was this man who unexpectedly died. And when he awakened, he found himself in this vast area of nothingness. There was nothing to be seen. And he wondered inside of himself, where is this place? What is this? And instantly, he heard a voice inside that said, what is your desire? And he responded, well, I'd like to see a meadow with wildflowers and wildlife, something. And instantly, as he spoke his word, a beautiful field of wildflowers emerged with animal life and hummingbirds and butterflies of all types and colors. And he thought, this is pretty cool. He says, I like this. And the voice asked him, what is your desire? He said, I'd like to see a stream coming through here with salmon and give me a few crawdads and see some fish. He says, that's what I'd like. And instantly, this beautiful meandering stream emerged with fish and little crawdads and little frogs and tadpoles. He thought, this is pretty cool. I like this. What is your desire? The voice said. Well, I'd like a mansion. I'd like a big mansion with all kinds of servants that would satisfy my every beck and whim. I want a massage. What about that? Instantly, he looked up on the hill, and there was his mansion where he went to live. And throughout the course of his stay there, every single desire that he could think of was instantly manifested. All the toys, the cars, everything that he could possibly think of emerged in this new world. One day, he woke up. It was a clear blue sky day, not a cloud in the horizon. And he thought, I'm bored with this. There's too much stuff. There's stuff everywhere. All this excitement, all this drama. He says, I'm tired of this. He says, I need something different. And this is not what I want. And so the voice asked him, what is your desire? He says, I think I want to go to hell. That's what I want. Take me to hell right now. That's what I want. The voice was quiet for a moment, and then it said, where do you think you are? This is hell. In Buddhism, there is a teaching that earthly desires are enlightenment. And what it essentially means is that as we go through our lives seeking these earthly desires, these things, we get this stuff, and then we end up having a garage full of stuff. We fill up our house with stuff. We fill the attic with stuff. We fill the basement with stuff. And at some point in time, sooner or later, sometimes sooner, sometimes later, we arrive at the point where we realize that it's just stuff. And it's not the meaning of my life. There must be more. So the key is for us to find a way to want what we have instead of having what we want. An attitude of gratitude, acceptance. It's where we begin to catch the heel of our inner Esau and to slow him down enough to begin to sense and feel the presence of the I am consciousness within us. For it is only in the silence, that place of inner peace, that we are able to realize with our real eyes that our boat is being steered with expert precision, that we have dominion in our own consciousness to know that we know that our word is divine, and that our thoughts are things, that we can create life anew by bringing together in marriage our thoughts and our feelings. And when we bring them together in unity, instantly they have a baby. And that baby is manifest in physical world reality. It's a love child that will produce after its own kind experiences of love and joy. On Wednesday night at the Healing Circle, we spoke of the power of joy and its ineffable quality, and the difference between happiness and joy. That happiness could be sparked by, oh, I got a new car, something in the external realm. Oh, I've got something new and I'm happy. And then when it's gone, we become unhappy. But joy is this ineffable quality that allows us to be in joy for no reason at all. We are just in joy. Just in joy. The expression of the I am consciousness, surrounded and filled and protected with that white light, knowing that there is nothing that can take our joy from us, for it is ours by divine right. But to remain in this place, we must do the work, because God never rows. We must do the rowing. And how do we do that? We commit to doing the work. The work of spiritual mind treatment on a daily basis, the work of affirmations, of meditation, of prayer, affirmative prayer. If you need help anchoring that, hire a practitioner. The LA Lakers have a coach. Dodgers have a coach. The people that you see demonstrating success in their lives have coaches. What's wrong with having a spiritual coach? Somebody who can not only support you and anchor you in your spiritual practice, but can pray with you and for you when you cannot pray for yourself. Have you ever been in that place? I've been there many a time. Time when all I could do is pick up the phone and call my practitioner. I couldn't even get the words out. But they knew. They knew. And prayer works. It's the basis of this philosophy. The fact that we are connected. And sometimes when we feel disconnected, we can pray and help someone else get connected because we're connected. It's like a tuning fork. If you take a tuning fork and you strike it and it begins to vibrate, if you take another tuning fork and hold it in proximity to that tuning fork, it will begin to vibrate with the same frequency. And prayer is the same way. It works the same way in my experience. So here at AHIAH, we have professional spiritual coaches, licensed practitioners, people who have given their life to this work, who've gone to school for a while, and they are the ecclesiastical arm of the church. They have dedicated themselves to the upliftment of mankind, to the speaking of words, knowing of truth. Practitioner can be your best asset. Sometimes we forget that there's a God. Oh, God? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, God, right. Oh, I remember God. So it's good to have somebody who can anchor you. You know, it's like this man who reached out for help with his drinking. He was finally convinced. I mean, everybody else had been telling him for years, you know, you got a problem. But he was like, no, I'm just a social drinker. You have a drink, so shall I. So he was convinced he didn't have a problem. So they sent him to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist said, you know, he says, listen, we're going to beat this thing. He says, what I want you to do is every time you have a drink, he says, you come see me and you report it. He says, that's what I want to do. He says, we're going to keep you accountable. We're going to use cognitive behavior on you, you know. He says, okay, all right, no problem. So a couple of weeks later, he staggers into the doctor's office. He said, hey, I just came in here to report that I had a drink yesterday. He said, fool, you drunk right now. He said, I know, but I'm going to report that tomorrow. He had a clear intention, didn't he? So don't wait till you get drunk to reach out. Do it while you're in your right mind, you know, right now. Because if you want to keep getting what you've been getting, just keep doing what you've been doing. If you want to get something different, try something different. Try it. Try something different. The second choice that you can make is to serve. Serve. And amazing things will happen. I don't want to steal Adelaide's thunder. I want to, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let her tell the story. But we watched Miss Adelaide stepped forward in spiritual leadership, and she inspired so many people, many of you in this room, to step forward with her. And last week we had an amazing happening here. My lips are zipped. I'm not going to tell it, but it was off the chain, as the young folks say. It was very inspiring, very uplifting. And at the announcement time, we're going to allow Miss Adelaide to tell the story. But it was a perfect example of what happens when you step forward in spiritual leadership. You inspire others. Others say, I want to do that. I want to be a part of that too. Seeing Pat Pimentel take on the ministry that she's taken on with the Foothill Services, Foothill Unity. We are a small congregation, but we're one of the largest contributors to that organization. We have food drives every year. There's Still Time. I got my food right here, Pat. There it is. And if you didn't get a chance to bring food today, you can write a check. Cash works. And no amount is too small, because the food bank, they have access to the food bank, and they can buy a lot more for $5 than we can going to Vons. So checks are good, dollars are good. Today is the day. Pat's back there in the back with open heart. And we acknowledge Pat for her spiritual leadership. She's been doing this for many years. And also the angels giving Christmas presents to some of the kids in our community who no longer have, who would not have a Christmas if it were not for us, for angels. So serving is another way that you can open to allowing amazing things to happen in your life. Finally, in closing, Raymond Charles Barker, who was a minister of the First Church of Religious Science in New York City in 1946, he wrote this passage in his book, which is now out of print, but the book is called Treatment: What It Is and How to Do It. He writes, "The greatest gift that we have to offer the world is the science of correct mental work, which we call treatment or scientific prayer. It is the only means of changing consciousness spiritually, and the only students who know how to give themselves treatments will prove our teachings. The others will listen, read, and remain at the same level of thought as they were when they first came to our doors." And he is speaking of that Esau consciousness that remains in the illusion of steering the boat, obsessed with driving, but going nowhere really fast. You can make a choice right here and right now. And when you do, that Jacob consciousness within you, the I am presence in your heart of heart, will take the helm and guide you into the sunlight of the Spirit's realm, which is joy, pure and complete joy. And from that light-filled joy of the Spirit, we are moved to become an instrument of giving, of serving, of loving. This holiday season of the heart, as we heard so beautifully in Sharon's song, is a celebration of the birth of the Christ within us, the birth of the Christ consciousness everywhere, the emergence of the Atman, the Buddha, the awakened one. I'm inviting you to allow it to be born inside of you by using this time of concentrated loving to give to others. I'm reminded of the song Jack wrote, "Let Christ Be Born in Me." It's a wonderful, evocative song that really speaks to that principle of allowing that Christ consciousness to be born within us during this season. Janet White, who's our loving practitioner, she's a facilitator of grandparents as parents. She called me the other night and she shared that there's a family right now, 4 little children, whose parents are unable to care for them temporarily. The 2 little girls, ages 4 and 6, and 2 little boys, ages 7 and 10. On the 23rd of this month, 2 days before Christmas, they will be coming to stay with their grandmother, to live with her for an extended period of time. They need clothes. they need love. They need to know that they are not alone in this experience and that they have not been abandoned, despite the inability of their parents to care for them right now. They need to know that the love of God is present in the hearts of the angels walking the earth in human form. Janet White can take donations. I'm committing a check for $50 to assist with buying them some clothes, Christmas toys. I'm inviting you to join with me to make a difference in supporting these little ones. You can talk with me after service, and we'll make arrangements to get whatever resources that you could offer to JW, to Janet. You know in your heart of hearts that you've been called to give. That's why you showed up here today. And so I'm inviting you to release any resistance that you have to letting it go. Just let it go, and it'll come back to you 100-fold. In Psalms 4:5, the closing scripture reads, "Get wisdom, get understanding, and turn not aside from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her," meaning wisdom, "and she will preserve you. Love her, and she will save you." Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all your substance, get understanding. I'm inviting you right here and now to open to the secret teachings of the parable of your own life. For what you seek is also seeking you. And in service to the getting of this wisdom, let yourself be steered by that I am consciousness within you. Turn to it and release the need for that Esau consciousness to drive your life. Reach out and ask for help. Give what you find and join us. Allow yourself to be lifted and shifted by that presence that has created you out of yourself for this day, for this life. For you are the life of God made manifest. Namaste, family. Namaste. Thank you.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For
And continuing in that state of most prayerful consciousness, please join with me as we come together for our spiritual treatment time. If you're comfortable, you may close your eyelids. As we join together in consciousness and we invoke the presence of the Most High, who goes by many names and who responds to them all. Mother, Father, God, Jesus, Christ, Allah, Shiva, Yahweh, Jehovah. And the moment that we call its name, there is a response. For we are its own. We are what it is what we are. I am what thou art, and thou art what I am. And as I speak this word, there is an instant connection and recognition as I realize that I stand on sacred ground. And as I know this truth for myself and absolutely delight in knowing it, I know it to be the truth for each and every person under the sound of my voice. For these are the beloveds of the beloveds, walking the earth in human form, the thoughts of God made manifest. How grateful I am to know this truth and to speak it into being. And so it is from this place that I use the voice that this loving presence has created to speak the word of truth, of blessing, of healing, of upliftment. I speak the word knowing that in each and every body temple here, that every cell, every fiber, every atom is excited at the prospect of knowing that it is divine in nature and that God is health, and health is hereby called forth in every body temple. I'm denying the presence of any dis-ease, any discomfort, any discord anywhere, calling forth the health, the perfection, that perfect pattern of perfection in each and every person under the sound of my voice. I speak the word for perfect living conditions, knowing that there is no such thing as homelessness. There is no way, for the home is where our heart is. And our hearts right now are open to being a vehicle for the presence of the Most High, to heal and reveal anything that is unlike that perfect pattern of